Yeah, hello and welcome to our third session about self-defined functions. So yeah, in front of us we still see what we used to calculate last time and just let me reset the calculator. So the good question is, of course, how can I make use of self-defined functions and why do I need self-defined functions? So the first reason for self-defined functions is that you may have calculations with more or less the same expression, but with just a few parameters changing. And the easy way to repeat such calculations efficiently is really to create a self-defined function, and we will see how this is working. The second reason is, of course, that those self-defined functions are the foundation for any of the extended capabilities, advanced capabilities of fx-Calc. So if we talk about functionalities like the 3D surface or plotting fx graphs or doing a function analysis, all this requires your self-defined function, which is nothing else than a usual mathematical expression which has dependencies on certain parameters. And the way to create such a self-defined function is simply to click on this button here, define function. It's very, very easy because you just need to define your parameters here. So let's start maybe with x1. Yeah. And as soon as your parameter is defined, it activates the corresponding input field in here, which lets you specify the parameter's value for x1 in your calculation. Yeah. So if I follow up here with x1, for instance, and say it's square, yeah, for instance, then I can simply define the parameter here, maybe 5, yeah, and the result is immediately there, it's 25, yeah. So by simply making this definition, I can then specify the parameter to be used in this calculation, and it's immediately calculated. So of course it makes not much sense to make such a definition for such a simple function like this, yeah, but as soon as it comes down to more complicated um, expressions, yeah, where the parameter, for instance, is used more than just one time, yeah, then it is already a kind of a help. And specifically, if it then comes down to multiple parameters, yeah, I just try to show you here what's possible. You can really specify parameter names as you want. Yeah, so the arguments in this function call just need to reflect exactly the arguments which are being used then in your expression here. Yeah, and if you say, for instance, this is times parameter, yeah, you see that the indicator here is still red, so it says there's still an error in your expression, and it says unknown identifier. The reason is that I didn't write parameter, just param in this case. So if I correct this, yeah, then the error indicator turns again into green, and the calculation can be performed. Yeah. So and I can use the third parameter as well. Yeah. So minus x2, and can say this is maybe 6. Yeah. So that's the way how you can define your own self-defined functions. And of course, you can make use of all the inbuilt functions here. Yeah, so that's of course normal capability. And by simply defining those functions, you have only one part. Yeah, the second piece is, of course, that after you have defined such a function, you can store your function in the inbuilt function database. Yeah, so in this case, I have to click on this button to copy my function, yeah, from the calculator, and give it a name, yeah, test function in this case, for instance. And then I have to click on add function, and I have this function in my library. Yeah, so we can close this window again, and if we open it again, yeah, or would then start another session with the calculator, this function remains in the function database and can be called from this window. The same way as all those other functions can be called. For instance, I could call the 3D test2 function here. Yeah, so just by double clicking the function identifier, and it's immediately applied to my editor window, and I can immediately follow up specifying the parameters and doing the calculation with my self-defined function. So that's of course a great help for any kind of calculation, yeah, because bottom line, you can use this methodology to automate some of the calculation steps that otherwise would take a bit more time to get your expression yeah, added to the text box again and again. Yeah. So the other important point really is, as I already mentioned, yeah, that you then can use your self-defined function with those advanced functionalities of fx-Calc, and that's really something which requires your function definition. Yeah, if you, for instance, would look at fx-Graphics already as a preview for one of the next sessions, we see here exactly such an expression, yeah, which is then being used to, for instance, plot a graph into a plot area. Yeah, so that's basically the way it works. And well, I would really appreciate if you would then join one of the following sessions again. In our next session, we will focus on sum and product calculation. Later on then on graphics and function analysis. So see you next time. Take care and bye bye. Thank you.